Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you how to crochet our Seaglass cardigan. It features a beautiful mosaic stitch pattern, as you can see here in this little swatch. I'm so excited to be working with Bella Coco's brand new yarn in collaboration with Hobie. It is a gorgeous, soft, superwash merino wool. And I'm working with this beautiful color of blue. This is one of her prints and it's called Coastal Drift. And I'll be combining that with ivory for this tutorial. You'll need 2 crochet hooks for this pattern. I'm using a 4mm and a 3.5mm crochet hook, and these are streamlined metal hooks from Furls Crochet. You will need to follow along with the crochet pattern for this tutorial. I will be showing you steps of the medium size cardigan, but make sure to follow along with the size that you're working on. We're going to start out with a front panel because it's a little bit smaller swatch where I can start working through the mosaic pattern with you. So we're going to begin with our smaller hook. And the band is 18 stitches wide. So we're going to be chaining out a total of 19. One single crochet in the second chain from the hook and a single crochet in every chain across. So now once you get to the end of the row, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Then we'll be working single crochets through the back loop only. So 1 single crochet in the back loop only of each stitch for a total of 18. So complete this row, and then you're going to continue repeating row 2 until you have as many rows as you need for the size you're working on. So you'll be doing 3 of the bands, 1 for the back. So for the medium size, you'll want 119 rows. The front of the medium size, you'll need 56 rows. So the back, 119. And for each of your front panels, you'll work 56. And this is what the front panel width is going to look like for our medium size. So when you're counting the rows, you can see that they'll be squished up like this, almost like an accordion style. So for every little ridge here is 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and you should have 56. I'm going to switch over to the 4mm hook at this point. And we're going to now start working across the edge of the band. So 1 single crochet per row. So we'll work across 56. So now as you work, you're going to see there's a little loop right here for this row. There's row 3. And then this row, it's much thicker, a thicker piece you need to push through. Then we're back to the loop, and this will just help you stay on track as you're working across. 1 stitch per row. And for this size, we have 56. But follow along with the size you're working on in the pattern. So I've worked across 56. I'm going to chain 1 and work back across the row. So each row now will be worked at 56 stitches, and we're going to have this row, we're going to change over to the ivory, and then we'll do 2 rows with the ivory, and then we'll be starting the mosaic pattern. So I'm coming to the end of the row. We're going to change over to our ivory color. So I'm going to pull up a loop, and I'm going to pull in color A. We're not going to be cutting the yarn with this pattern. We're going to just carry it up the sides as we go. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to just crochet over the blue and my tail on that first stitch. Now I'm going to drop off the blue, and crocheting over it just on that first stitch is going to help hide it. I am going to continue to crochet over this tail just so it saves a bit on weaving. So I'll now single crochet in every stitch across, and I will be single crocheting back along this row again as well. Okay, so once you've worked all the way across, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and single crochet back across the row. And once I get to the last stitch, I'll meet you up again. We're going to change color, and then we'll be starting row 3 in color B of the mosaic. And this is Inset Mosaic that we're going to be working, so we don't have the tails. So I'm coming to my last stitch, and to hide again this blue yarn, I am going to drape it over my crochet hook. I'm going to then go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, so you now have 2 loops on your hook. I'm going to drop off the ivory, and I'm going to yarn over now with the blue, which is color B. Chain 1 and turn. I'm going to turn. I'm going to crochet over the tail, and this is how I'm going to work the carrying of the yarn for this pattern. So I'm going to single crochet in the first. And I've crocheted over that white tail, and then I'm dropping it off. So we'll be working inset mosaic crochet for this cardigan. So how the chart is worked is you do work across the row, and then we come back. So we can continue to carry the yarn up the side as I've shown you, and we can hide all of those tails. So for row 3, you can see we have single crochet at the start and the end. So we'll always be single crocheting in our first and last stitch. Also, for every box you see that doesn't have an X, we'll be working a single crochet for the color of the row. And when you come to an opposite color, we'll be chaining 1, skipping 1 per box that you see. So single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, but at other sections of the pattern, as you see here, we have 2 white boxes. You would be chaining 2, skipping 2 for these areas. So it just depends how many boxes for how many you will chain and skip. Now also, if we look down here, this is just showing us the stitch repeat for the row. So when you're looking at the written pattern, we'll be starting out with our single crochet, then we'll be working row or stitch 2 through 10, And then that is repeated throughout. So as you can see, this is the section that's repeated. So here is a repeat, here's another repeat, here is another repeat. So we have, just for this chart I'm showing you here, we have 3, and then we end with a single crochet. So this is actually a multiple of 9. So the pattern is worked in multiples of 9, plus we have 2 additional stitches to mark our start and our end. So stitch 2 is a single crochet. Stitch 3 is a single crochet. And then I'm going to chain 1, skip 1. And then I'm single crocheting 3, 1, 2, 3. I then chain 1, skip 1. And for our repeat, we then have 2 more single crochet. So 1, 2. Then we start back here again, but as you can see, when you look at this, we have 2 single crochet. So here's our 2 single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, 3, chain 1, skip 1, and then 2. So that keeps getting repeated because you could be working across your back, you were working across different sizes. So you just make sure that you follow. This is your repeat that you're repeating across. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. When you look at it in a bigger format, you can see we'll be single crocheting 4, but how the repeat is broke up, you're restarting and continuing to repeat this series of 9 stitches across your pattern. So starting back, I have 1, 2, chain 1, skip 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, 1, 2, and then I start over again. It is a very simple pattern though. It won't take much to memorize and be able to just continue. So I'm going to continue working across my row, and try when you're working your mosaic to not crochet it too tightly. You could even go up another hook size if you're finding your work is pulling in too tight. So now we can see we're coming to the end of our repeat, which is our 2 single crochet, and then we're single crocheting again in the last stitch. So you should end with 3. We'll then chain 1 and turn. And as we work back across, we're working the single crochets in our single crochet stitches, and you're chaining and skipping the same as you did on the other row. So chain 1, skip 1, single crochet 3, chain 1, skip 1, and so on, working across. And it's pretty easy to see where your chains are. So this row, sometimes you don't even need to look at your chart. 1, 2, 3. Here's my chain 1, skip 1. Chain 1, skip 1. And I'm working back across the row in this manner. Okay, so when we get to the end, to crochet that last single crochet, you're going to take your color A, drape it over your hook because we're going to hide it on this final stitch. So go through, pulling up. We're now going to drop off color B and yarn over and through with color A, and then we'll chain 1, turn, and single crochet over the blue on that first stitch. Now let's take a look. So now we're working with color A. We've single crocheted in the first. You can see the next color is a pink, so we need to chain 1, skip 1. We're then going to work a single crochet. Then I'm going to show you how to make a mosaic double crochet in the next stitch. This will be a chain 3, skip 3, mosaic double, single crochet, and then we begin to chain. That's the last stitch of the repeat. So we chain 1, but then we're starting all the way back at the start again here. So it actually ends up being a chain 2 because 1 plus 1 equals 2. So we're going to chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. And then we're going to do our mosaic double crochet. So as you can see down here, where we have done that chain and skipping a stitch, so this stitch is not worked into. So we're yarning over, you're going down and working into this stitch. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So you're only able to do the mosaic double where there's been a chain 1, skip 1 in order to have that stitch available. So now we're going to chain 3, skip 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you can see there should be a stitch available for the next mosaic double, which there is. Make sure you do those chains loose. This is where your work can really get tightened up if your chains aren't loose enough. Then we have a single crochet in the next. And then we have a chain 1, and then we start the repeat again. So we'll chain 1, skip 1, we start our repeat again with another chain 1, skip 1, and then you should have a single crochet. And then we're back to a mosaic double. Now I think I maybe got my stitches off slightly, and this is where it can sometimes be tricky. I should have single crocheted here. So let's go back and then chain 1, skip 2, single crochet, and mosaic double. Once you start getting your work established, it does get easier to see where you're placing your stitches. But if you notice you're a little off, like I just did, you can just pull back and rework it. So now we're going to chain 3. I'm going to keep those loose. 1, 2, 3. And then you should be coming again to that mosaic double space. So here I'll be doing the single. This time I don't want to mess it up, so I'm doing a single, chain 1, we restart, chain 1, so I'm skipping 2 in total. I'm then single crocheting and working that drop down. So I'm going to continue that all the way across. So as we come to the end of the repeat, you can see we have our chain 1, and then we're single crocheting in the last stitch. Chain 1 and turn. So now what happens as we work back? We're going to single crochet in every single crochet and every mosaic double crochet. So we're only chaining 1 and skipping 1 for those areas, but in the mosaic doubles and the singles, we're working single crochet stitches. So we should be single crocheting, chain 1, and then you should have 2 singles, 1, 2, chain 3, single, single, and then it's a chain 1 and a chain 1 again for a total of 2 chains. But it's pretty easy just to, again, follow along with what we've already done. So you can see we've got a chain 3, so you almost don't, again, even need to look at your chart, because you can see now we're chaining 2 across this section, single, single, 1, 2, 3, and just continue working across. So as we're ending, we have a chain 1, and then we're single crocheting in the last stitch. We're going to put our blue yarn over top of the hook to hide it. Single crochet, always give it a tug just to hide that pull, and then yarn over, pulling through, chain 1 and turn. So I always like to get that first stitch done. So we'll single crochet, crochet over the white, the ivory, and then we are to row 5. Now we actually have double that. I label them this way, but we're coming back, so it's actually always double. So 5 is actually 10 rows in total, but we're just going to go by these numbers here up the side. So we're starting with that single crochet, then we have a mosaic double in the next, and you should have that stitch right there that you can work into it. Then we have a chain 1, skip 1, then we have a single crochet. So the single crochet should be going over that mosaic double. It's always good to really pay attention to the placement of everything. And then we have 3 mosaic doubles, which we have those 3 stitches because we did the chaining. So 1, 2. Now, what you also can do is we can anchor these chains. So in order to do that, and as we get into more, you're definitely going to want to do this. So I'm going to yarn over, and I'm basically just going to crochet around all of those chains. So I'm going to come through. I'm keeping the chains over the top of the hook. I am pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you could do all of your chains that way. Like we could do all 3 stitches, but it is going to push them back a bit and they will look slightly different. So just be consistent with whatever you choose to do. I'm going to go ahead and work this one so it pops a little bit more forward. And then you can see that we have secured the chain in behind so that it's not going to be this floppy bit of chain. So then we have a single crochet. We have a chain 1, skip 1, and then a mosaic double ends the repeat. But then our repeat restarts again with another mosaic double. So we have that stitch available. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, and then we have the 3 mosaic doubles again. So you can have them going forward or you can crochet right over the chain, and we're going to do that on the next stitch to anchor it. And these sections where we have 5, I would do 3. You could do just 1, but it's going to make it even more secure if you do the 3. Then we have a single, chain 1, mosaic double, and then we start the repeat over again. And the beautiful stitch pattern is going to start coming together as you work. So if we look up the side, we'll be repeating these sections. So row 3 through 12, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 rows will be repeated. So you're going to continue. I'm not going to go through the entire mosaic stitch pattern with you. This is just to show you how the technique is worked. So you're going to continue working until you're at row 30. So in total, with our rows that come back, you'll actually have 60 rows worked. And then our sleeves will begin on row 31, and we'll meet up. I'm going to show you how the sleeves are worked off the back panel, and I'll also show you how they're worked off the front panels. Now, our front left and our right both begin the same way. So you're going to crochet up 2 of these sections, one for left, one for right. The only difference is then for the sleeves. We'll be crocheting off one sleeve on this side, the other sleeve on the other side to make our front panels. So we have our 3 pieces in total. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to work up our 2 front panels. I'm going to get it to the point where we add the sleeve so I can show you that step as well. Okay, so I've been working on the pattern and we are finishing at row 31. So this is the top of this sort of diamond oval shape. Okay, so I've worked across. Now what we want to do is create the sleeves. So from here down to the band is about 11 inches. Now, if you do want to alter this, I suggest stopping on the same row as that I'm stopping. So I would maybe do another full section of the diamond. So if you look at them over on the side, we have 1, 2, 3. I would go ahead and do multiples of that pattern ending on what would be row 11 of the repeat. So for our sleeve, I'm going to be chaining out 108, which is our multiple of 9. But for this side, we need to do 1 extra for our turning chain. So I'm going to go ahead and chain out 109. So now I've worked 109. What I'm going to do is just with the other end of the ball, I'm going to come over here to our right hand side to chain out 108 so that we have it right available to continue working across. Now I can cut the white yarn. You could grab another ball of yarn as well. So we're going to join in and chain out 108 and then fasten off. Okay, so once you have 108 chains, we're going to fasten that off. Now, if you want to alter the length of the sleeve, you're going to do so in your multiple of 9. So I'm going to come back over to my working yarn. And I'm going to turn, and you're going to work single crochets all the way across the chain. So in the second chain from the hook, so we'll be working across a total of 108, and then we'll be back to the body. So now once you get across to the body, you're going to continue in your pattern. So working your single crochets and chaining for your chain spaces. So I've chained 1, and then I'm working in the drop downs, chain 1, and continue across, and then you will work the same thing. We're going to just work single crochets across our chain, and then you're going to get right back into your pattern, and it will be with your white yarn, and that will be a row 12 of the pattern, the stitch repeat. Now you want to follow along with the size that you're working on for how many rows you're going to need to do for the sleeve section. So you will work the stitch pattern until you have about half of your sleeve width, but refer to your pattern for the size you're working on. But you'll just continue in the stitch pattern. This will be about half the width of your sleeve. So you can take a look at the schematics and choose the sleeve width that you prefer. So this is where the pattern gives you a little flexibility in order to customize it to your body. If your arm's a little bit bigger, maybe go up a size on the arm. If your arm's a bit smaller, you could always go down a size. But take a look at the schematics. This will be working half of the sleeve, because once you put the cardigan together, the front panel will be the other half of the sleeve. So you're going to have your section of work, let's say it's about this, that would be half of the sleeve. So I'm working back across with my white, and what I want to show you how it's going to work once you get to your sleeve section. So we're working on row 32, which is our repeat of row 12. But if we look at this chart, so this is where we're working across now. We're back to A. And when we come to the sleeve portion, we don't have any spaces to work the drop down double crochets, the mosaic double crochets. So what we will be doing is single crochets instead. So as we work across, we'll work 5 single crochet, and so if you look at this here, we'll be working 5 single crochet and then a chain 4, 5 single crochet and then a chain 4, because these are all single crochets and we're changing the drop downs to single crochets. Otherwise, if you're trying to do the doubles, it's going to shift the height and it's not going to work because we don't have anything to drop down into. So I'm going to do 5 singles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then I'm going to skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're just going to continue in that way across our sleeve. So now as we come to the end, we should have a chain 2. So we've worked our 5 singles, we should have a chain 2 and then a single crochet. So we should be ending with 3, which I have here. So I'm going to chain 2 and then single crochet in that final stitch. Chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to go back across the same way. So we'll be doing our chains and single crochets as we work across. So single crochet, chain 2, single crochet 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and you're just going to continue working that across. And then when you get to row 33, you're going to be able to work your drop downs because now we have the spaces available. We'll have the spaces available 2 rows below, down in these areas. So you'll have your 4 drop downs and the spaces will be available. So you can merge right back into the pattern. So the only difference is for the sleeve section, you're going to be working single crochets instead of drop downs on that row 32. Okay, so here is one of the front panels complete now. And what we're going to do is 2 front panels. I'm going to show you how to work each sleeve off the one panel. We're still working on the other one, so I don't have it complete yet. So I'm just going to show you this step off this panel. So we're going to have our front right and our front left panel. And what we'll be doing, instead of like the back, we're only going to be doing a sleeve off one side. So our front right is actually going to have the sleeve coming off the left, and our front left will have the sleeve coming off the right side. So I'll show you how to do both sides. So for our front right, we're going to chain out 109. So for your front right, you'll chain out 109, then you'll work back across your row 108 stitches, and then you'll continue with your single crochet across this row. Then what you'll do is continue working your section of your sleeve. So just continue, follow along with the pattern for the size you're working on, and complete your sleeve and front section all in one piece. So I've worked out 109. I'm going to work back in single crochets, so 108 stitches. You also want to keep this fairly tight and even your chain fairly tight, because the mosaic pattern does pull always your work in. Now, if you find your sleeve edge is really bunching, once we block it, it is going to stretch everything out a little bit and make it look a lot nicer. But just try to keep your chain a little bit tighter and your stitches working back a bit tighter, just so that the mosaic pattern does blend in fairly well. So now when you're working on your front left sleeve, you're going to join into the corner. And this is similar just to how we showed with the back. You'll join. You're going to chain 108. So go ahead and chain 108 for your sleeve. And then you're going to come back. You'll fasten off once you have 108. You're going to come back over to this side and work your single crochet row all the way across. Then you'll join on with your white and continue again in your pattern, working as many rows as you need for your sleeve size. So follow along with the pattern for that so you know how many rows to do. So once I get these sections of the pattern done, so I'll finish with the back and each front panel, we'll meet back up and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I have been working on my front panels. So this would be our front left. And what you're doing is, so you've just worked up as much work as you need for half of your sleeve width. And follow along with your pattern for the size you're working on, because you'll be ending on different rows depending on the size. Single crocheted in my first stitch. And then my next is a drop down. So we're working those as normal. Next, I would be chaining, but I'm going to single crochet instead because I'm finishing off the top and I don't want to have chains. So we're going to single crochet. Then, following the pattern, I would be single crocheting in the next stitch. And then I would be doing 3 drop downs, so mosaic doubles. So there's 1, 2, 3. Single, single, and then I have 2. Okay, so we're just working it across, so follow along with the size that you're working on and make sure for this row that you're not doing any chaining. We're just working single crochets, and then when we work back across, we'll be working in single crochet stitches all the way back across in the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and continue working this across. Okay, so I'm coming to the end. I have my last drop down. And then I'm ending with a single crochet, chain 1, and then we're going to work back across in single crochet. Now we're just going to continue to work single crochets all the way across. Okay, so we're ending with the blue, and then we can fasten off. So once you get all the way across, we're going to fasten off. Now we can fasten off with a long tail for sewing. And I like to take about double the length we're going to need, because we'll take the back and we're going to seam this to our back panel. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more than double, just so we have enough for whip stitching this later on. So now we have our front right panel, and we're going to work it exactly like I just showed you doing the left side. The only difference is this time we start in at the center of the panel instead of at the outer sleeve, but the stitch pattern is the same. So I've already started with a single crochet, and we are on that row 29 for this size, so then we drop down. But again, it doesn't matter what size, what row you're on, you're just switching out your chains for single crochets. Single crochet, and then we're going to have 3 drop downs. So once you work across this panel, you'll then work back across single crochets, and then you can fasten off. So after you complete your 3 panels, your back and your 2 fronts, you're going to want to block them to measurements. Now I just want to give you a heads up on this yarn. It will bleed into the water. So we have already blocked this one. As you can see, the colors did not bleed. So even though you will notice that the water will turn blue, it didn't bleed into the white. So that's good to know. So don't be worried when you see the blue if you're using the same yarn as me for this pattern. So we put the garment into some lukewarm water with a little bit of dish soap. So you could maybe make it a little bit cooler. Maybe it would bleed less. We just allowed the garment to soak for around 25 to 30 minutes. Then we just used a towel to get out most of the water. Now we did find that it didn't absorb a lot, so you are going to find that it's not overly wet with this type of yarn. And then we just laid it out and pinned it to measurements and just allowed it to fully dry. So I've pulled mine off the blocking mats. It has a nice, beautiful press look at this point. And then what we're going to do is start seaming our front to our back panel. Now you want to go right sides facing. So you're just going to lay your back panel down. You're going to take your front panel and we're just going to line it up, and then we can seam all the way across. And you're going to do the same thing with the other side. So you're going to take your front panel, you can lay it so your right sides are facing. See, the wrong side is facing out. And when you're blocking, this is where it's always important to get your measurements right so that everything is lining up properly. And I left the long tail. And what we're going to do is go through the stitch on the front and then go through the full stitch on the back. And then you're going to work through each stitch as you go. And then you also know that you're sewing it on correctly as you go through each stitch on each side. So we're going to do this for both the front panels, seaming them to the back. And then it's going to create one large piece. Then we can seam our sides and the rest of the sleeve at this area coming down. I will show you how to do that. And then we're going to finish off the cardigan with our collar and then also a cuff on the sleeve. Okay, so I finished seaming the panels together. So you're going to get this blue line that's going to run down the arm on each side. And now what we're going to do is fold it back again, right sides facing. And then we're going to seam up the sides and down the sleeve. So when I'm pulling off some yarn to do this, I want to go with a little more than double what I need to sew. I'm going to take this . So we're going to have a really long tail to start with. And I'm going to start down at the band, but you can start at the arm if you want as well. It doesn't really make a difference. So we're going to start off with just knotting the bottom to get joined in. And you really want to make sure as you sew up the side that you are going row by row. You can match up your blue and your white rows so that you know you're going evenly across the side. As you're going through the band here, we can go through each stitch so that we know we're sewing it correctly. So I'm going to go ahead Okay, so now as you get here, you really want to be careful that you're just going through a little bit of the white. Otherwise, you're going to see the blue through, so you want to hide that as much as you can when you're seaming through the white section. The blue, it's not as big of a deal, but you really want to make sure that you do line up your colors so the pattern on the other side is going to look better. It's really just a very short section that we're doing, and then we'll be to the sleeve. And then once you get to the sleeve, you're just going to be going through the stitches, and it's all blue, so you can just whip across that fairly quickly. So I'm going to continue this side, and I'll seam the other side as well. So you're going to want to grab your smaller hook, and join our yarn in to the band. And we're going to single crochet across. So now once you're getting to the side, we're just working a single crochet per row along the side. So you just want to make sure that you're not getting too many stitches or too few. You just want that edge to lay nice and flat. You don't want it bunching or pulling. Okay, so you're just going to work now your row of single crochet all the way around. So you're going to go all the way up, work across the neck opening, down this side. Then we will fasten off at the other side, and then we're going to come and join back on, just so when we work the next step, we're going to be slip stitching to the right side of the work. Okay, so once you get to the end, we're going to fasten off. So once you've completed the edging, we're going to mark off our buttonholes. So I'm going to mark the 4th stitch. Then I'm going to count 18 and mark the 18th stitch. And then I'm going to count another 18. Okay, so now we're going to join in. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook to start. We're going to join to the first stitch with a slip stitch. And then we're going to chain out the width that we would like for our collar. I want to keep mine fairly thin because we don't have a very large neck opening. So I'm going to chain a total of 7. So we'll single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each chain across for a total of 6. We'll then skip the first stitch and slip stitch into the next 2. We'll will then turn and we're going to work single crochets to the back loop, but we're going to skip the slip stitches so you can see them right here. Single crochet through the back loop only of 6. We'll chain 1 and turn, and single crochet through the back loop only of 6. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now when working a buttonhole row, my next stitch is a stitch marker. So my first row I make will have the buttonhole. If it was marked in the second stitch we're coming to, then you would work your buttonhole on your second row. So I'm going to slip stitch in the next 2, turn, skip the slip stitches as normal, and then we'll be working the buttonhole row this first time. So work 2, chain 2, skip 2, and then work a single crochet in the back loop only of the next 2. Chain 1, and then we'll work 1 in the back loop of the next 2, and then 2 single crochet in the chain 2 space. Single crochet back loop of the next 2. Then we'll slip stitch in the next 2 stitches, and we're going to continue now in this manner. Work a buttonhole whenever you get to your markers. And what I like to do is just check and make sure the button is going to fit through the hole. You can always adjust your space to accommodate your button. So before you do too much work, it's always a good idea just to test it out. You want to make sure that the hole isn't too big because you don't want your buttons not staying done up. So this one will be fairly snug initially, but usually the yarn will stretch a little bit. So you want it tight going through. And then this button matches fairly well with the width of the band. So I'm going to continue working my collar around, working my buttonholes as I come to my markers. And then once I get to the other side, I'll fasten that off. So here is the finished collar with our buttons attached. So you're just going to sew your buttons opposite your buttonholes. So now with the smaller hook, we're going to join in our yarn. And I'm going to join it to the seam that's at the underarm. And we'll chain 1. I'm going to single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet 1 per each color. So that's 1 single crochet per 2 rows. So I've gone 1 in the white, then 1 in the blue, 1 in the white, one in the blue. So we're going to work that all the way around. So once you get all the way around, we're going to slip stitch to join, chain 1, and you'll have a different number of stitches depending on the size you're working on. But I want the cuff to still cinch in a little bit more than this, so we're going to do some decreases worked around. So I'm going to single crochet in the first 2, and then I'm going to decrease the next 2. Single crochet in the next 2, and then decrease the next 2. Then once you get all the way around, we're going to slip stitch to join. And now we're going to do the ribbed cuff. And I want to keep it fairly small because this is a full-length sleeve, so we don't want too much bunching. So I'm going to work it out at 8 stitches, so we need to chain out 9. And then we'll work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and each chain across. So we're going to be joining this just like I've shown you for doing the collar. So once we get all the way down, we'll slip stitch into the next 2. Turn. We're going to skip over the slip stitches. There's 1, 2, it's kind of hard to see, but you just want to turn so that you can count them. And then we'll work through the back loop of each stitch for a total of 8. Chain 1 and turn. Slip stitch in the next 2, and we're just going to complete this working all the way around the cuff. Okay, so once you get all the way around, what we're going to do is slip stitch it together. So I am just folding. You can also fasten off and sew it together if you find that easier. You need to get right sides facing, so I just fold it back to get my right sides together rather than putting the whole sweater inside out. And then we're just going to come over to this side. We're going to go through each stitch and slip stitch. Going from this side across to this side. So you'll slip stitch across 8, and then we can fasten off and weave in all of our tails. Okay. So this is what the cuff's going to look like. I'm just going to take my yarn needle and weave in this tail to finish it off. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Make sure to check the description box below the video for the yarn and pattern links. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.